Jordan, your favorite real estate agent out of beautiful Texas. I come to you with top 10 points what to not share with your listing agent per the internet. And I thought I'd talk you through that real quick. Number 10 out of 10 points, you won't settle for a lower price. I personally think you should share that with your agent and be very vulnerable and honest with your agent. And you need to know that your agent has your best interest at mind. And for me as your agent, it is very good to see, of course, I always want to get you top dollar, but if a market is changing on us like right now, or you as the seller maybe decided to overprice slightly, it is a good reality check to see what offers are coming in and to adjust if we have to. Hopefully we start with the right price from the get-go. First impression is everything when it comes to real estate. But if you tell your agent this is the price and I will not move on this price for the next 12 months and the listing will simply be up there, you basically handcuff your agent from helping you. Okay, so I personally agree that is not a good statement to say to your agent, and it would be good to find an agent that you trust and you can be honest with. Okay, it doesn't mean that the agent will drag it all out there and put it on the MLS, your personal situation. Of course, we have a fiduciary duty and we are representing you as the seller. So certain things are not very smart to put on the MLS, okay? Then point number 9, only bring me serious offers. First of all, everybody who puts in the effort to write up a whole offer, that is for the agent easily 30 minutes, 60 minutes worth of time to fill out all the information according to every single property. It's not just an email, hey, we offer 390 on this property. It is all the forms, all the addendums, everything needs to be filled out correctly, signed by our clients, and then we submit the offer. So all the offers we assume are serious, and then we have buyers that are more or less qualified. So that is my job as the listing agent to present you, look, here we have red flags, that offer looks very solid, and not always the highest price is the best offer. I have a listing right now coming up and the owner already got offers by investors. That is very typical. Right now the investors are very hungry. Guess who is on the MLS? Also the investors are on the MLS. So they watch the market everywhere, and of course they try to snatch a listing before it goes active because they don't have competition. It's like bringing your apples to the apple market. We have more buyers on the MLS, like at the farmers market. There are more buyers for apples at the farmers market than if you try to sell it at your front door. Also, if you try to do for sale by owner, you don't know what you don't know. For example, some sellers do not know that they are obligated to give a seller's disclosure. There are certain ways how to even add legal protection to that. So hopefully you avoid a lawsuit in a year or 2 years or 3 years after the transaction because the buyer, for good reason or no good reason, says, hey, there was a leak in the roof and you didn't say that, and they can just make that up and you're involved in a lawsuit. So maybe you want to add legal protection. Also, for example, if you don't submit the seller's disclosure, the buyer has right to terminate, basically all the way to closing table. If you were a for sale by owner and you sell your own apples at your front door, you try to sell your real estate by yourself, you don't know all of these things and you will get very frustrated and maybe get yourself in legal trouble because of all the things that you don't know. It's like speeding on the highway. If you tell the officer, oh, I didn't know what was the speed limit, I feel there were not enough signs, it doesn't matter. You were speeding, you will pay the ticket, or maybe they will even take your license, right? So, and that can get very, very expensive. And in this case, we had offers that were not offers, but it was a verbal offer that was presented. And most of the times, it's like in other professions, the seller doesn't even know what is important, what do they need to look out for. Also, when you sell your real estate on the marketplace, usually we get you top dollar. Okay, let me get through my points because I always start talking too much. So only bring me serious offers is the next point, and all the offers we expect to be serious, and then it is your listing agent's job to advise you or to explain to you what is a good offer and what is not. And not always just the number is important. Like in this case from the investor, there are loopholes for the investor and the seller doesn't even know. So it's very good to be represented and pick the best buyer that will see the closing table with you, right? All the offers do not help if there are loopholes or if there are exits for the buyer that make them not see the closing table with you, or even worse, on the way to the closing table, they try to negotiate your price down. Okay. Point number 8, don't show my home unless I'm available. When I list your home, you help me as the listing agent the best, what means you're also helping yourself the best when we have your house as much available as we can. I just recently had a listing and we ended up terminating the listing because it was a struggle to just get showings. There were parties involved that were not in agreement to sell, it seems, and it was a struggle to simply schedule showings. So if you want to sell your house quick and high, and usually the two of them go hand in hand, because the longer your listing on the market is, the more it will go stale. You are helping your listing agent, and that means yourself, by having your house available as much as you help it. I always tell my clients, when my listing strategy is usually on a Monday or a Tuesday, I try to go coming soon. Coming soon means only the agents see your listing, but if there are agents out there and they have certain clients, they know what the client is looking for, and they already say, hey, something is coming soon, get ready, this weekend we will probably see this house. Okay, then on a Thursday, I go active. Active means the public can see your property. It's very important to hold those days, even in a buyer's market like this, to build up as much hype and traffic as I can help it on the listing side. On a Thursday, we go active. So all the public, everybody who's on a search on HAR, they all get the information. Hey, this listing is active. It is a 4-bedroom. It has a pool. It is exactly what you're looking for. The price is top notch. How about you want to go out there? So this is how me as a listing agent builds up traffic on your property. And when you say, maybe I have a shower at 10 o'clock in the morning and you catch me in my towel, it would be good if we are in agreement that when we go active, all the buyers that want to see your house can see your house as much as we can help it. Sometimes we had listing where a person was disabled or bedridden or a senior citizen, and we will work with that too. But of course, the more you have your house available, the better. Okay. Don't tell your listing agent per the internet that you have all the time in the world to sell your property. That shows your agent that you're actually not very interested to sell. You're not very interested in being competitive on the market. And usually it is a seller that wants to overprice their house. And they think by just having it out there for 6 months or 12 months, the right buyer will come. The problem is usually the right buyer is usually using financing. Investors that are looking for a good deal, they are often cash buyers. They don't need financing. They offer you whatever they want to offer, but they need a bigger margin because they want to buy your house, fix it up, and then sell your house. Or they want to buy your house, rent it out for 10 years, and then sell it. They want meat on the bone. Usually per dollar, that is not your highest offer. On the other hand, if you want top dollar, what is usually from the end consumer, so someone who actually buys your house and wants to live in it, that buyer can go higher in the price because they are simply pre-approved for a certain amount. But the moment we are working with buyers that use financing, we need to look at the appraisals. Appraisal is not your tax appraisal, and appraisal is not Zillow. Zillow compares apples and bananas, and they compare apple and banana and a bicycle, okay? So they throw everything what is out there in one pot, steer, and then they say, this is your price. So please don't go with Zillow, okay? Have an agent run your comps, and often we run comps and we don't get the deal. That is totally normal. Don't feel guilty about that. Running comps is like 5 minutes for us. Just a quick, rough idea where you're at, even without seeing your house. If it's top notch, you get more. If it's a hot mess listing, you get less, of course, but that is naturally. So don't tell your agent you have all the time in the world to sell, because it shows you're not serious. You're shooting very high usually, and when you go for the highest price, what means usually a buyer with financing, it also means there will be an appraisal because the lender will not overpay for the property that their client, the buyer, wants to buy. So guess what? You're shooting yourself in the foot, but you shoot yoot in the foot 4 months down the road, 6 months down the road, you lost a whole lot of time, and you lost the possibility of a multiple offer situation, and you lost the possibility of picking the strongest buyer. If you're on the market 4 months, 6 months, guess what? You simply have to go with that buyer that offers you whatever amount, because at one point you see, well, this is all I'm getting. No one cares for my listing. And we want to avoid that, and there are strategies how to avoid that. Point number 6, I disagree with this one. It says, do not tell your listing agent that you're selling your home because of a divorce. I believe personally it is very important for your listing agent to understand the situation, because if you and your current husband or wife are in disagreement, or one wants to make the marriage work and the other one is done and wants to exit, that is good to know, because when we have your listing up, we need certain signatures from both of you. You're both the owners if it is your primary residence. So it is very important when I understand the wife is not on board, that changes the situation and the dynamics. What, for example, could mean we are getting the offer in, and all of a sudden one of the spouses says, oh, I'm not satisfied with the number, because overall they're not satisfied with the situation. So it needs a different approach to get everybody on the same page if we want to have a successful sale. So I personally believe, and the argument on the internet is your agent will put it on the MLS and tell everybody this is a divorce situation, and then the ravens will come out and take advantage of you. Well, of course you need a listing agent that does not do that, right? We have a fiduciary duty. I will never ever put something on the MLS that is not in agreement with you and that you did not request for. And of course I will not try to list your property in a way that makes us look desperate, except we are desperate and you want to be open about it to just create more traffic, and that it's its own listing strategy. But even if you want to create traffic, the goal always needs to be to get you top dollar, and there are ways how to do that and not to do that. Point number 5, what to not tell your listing agent per the internet. You have to sell because of financial problems. That is basically the same thing like divorce. I believe personally you want to be honest with your listing agent, because there are certain ways how to take care of you. I had recently a listing and the seller needed a certain net amount to break even. Some people in this market are upside down. They have, let's say you have a mortgage. Some people have a secondary mortgage. Let's say you didn't pay your taxes for your business and the IRS came and put something on your property that in case you sell, first of all, you pay the IRS 50K, 100K. All of a sudden the seller is upside down. So all of these things, that is super, super important that your listing agent knows. First of all, of course, that means that you know your numbers. Don't have any hidden debt. Don't have any dead bodies in the basement. I need to know so I can help you best and I can protect you best, okay? If that comes up during the transaction, that is bad, because now once we're in a binding contract, the buyer has certain obligations, but definitely the seller has certain obligations. So now we are maybe possibly facing a lawsuit. We do not want to come close to that, okay? So please, point number 5, I do disagree with that one. Be honest with your agent, of course, an agent that you trust and that will not put it on the MLS, my seller is in distress, okay? That you're moving because of a serious illness is point number 4. I don't know if that is like the other two with divorce and financial problems. That is no one's business. I do not even understand this point, honestly. Point number 3 is that a death occurred on the property. Well, that is different state to state. In Texas, we have to disclose if there was a murder on the property, or if there was a death, of course, that was caused by the property. Let's say all your outlets are unprotected, they're open, the cables are hanging out of the wall, and your spouse touched it and he died. So the house is not safe. Or the structure is so unsafe, some beams crashed out of the ceilings and they hit someone and a person died. Well, that is serious business. You need to disclose that. Once I was actually on the market, under contract even, with a property where the spouse shot the wife and the wife was 8 months pregnant and there were 3 other kids in the building while all of that happened in front of the 3-car garage under the covered patio. So the wife passed and the husband went to the hospital and the unborn child also died and all the kids are in foster care. And all of that I learned from the neighbors the moment I went under contract. We had a seller's disclosure and this, again, the seller's disclosure is so important. It was disclosed and then the agent was sneaky enough to copy this handwritten seller's disclosure in a way that it was not readable. I could not read, was there a death on the property or not? So I was like, this never happens. Guess what? It was set up that way and there was a murder on the property, and what a kind of murder. And I decided to terminate that due to the seller's disclosure being not readable. I had no chance to know, and that is a way to terminate, and I don't think it was the best business strategy of the listing agent to go about that. So in Texas, if someone died on the property with a murder or according to the property condition, we need to disclose that, but like, be honest with your agent, because the buyer will find out, and you don't want, because they talk to the neighbors, or once they move in they talk to the neighbors, and if it is important to the buyer, just disclose that. I have not seen that that is an issue for a buyer usually not to buy a property, as long as it is a, how do you say, a good reason to die. Like anything normal, like if someone is old and they just passed in the house, you don't need to disclose it on the seller's disclosure, but I would also not make a big deal of keeping it a secret or so, because it will come out and I don't know, it will cause you issues on the way to closing if that is actually something important to the buyer. But like said, I have not had that as a serious problem or a criteria ever requested by a buyer. Point number 2, if you're interested in a certain type of buyer, I never had a client that actually violated this, but we're talking about discrimination. So I had, for example, a neighbor, and she had a certain issue with certain races, certain countries, certain backgrounds. There are other people that have issues with certain income levels, or I have heard like neighbors talking about people moving in and they don't want neighbors with a whole bunch of kids. Well, all of this is discrimination, okay? I personally advise my sellers to not give that any thought at all. Who is your buyer? As long as your buyer is qualified and brings the right amount to the table and is able and willing to close with you. It doesn't matter which country they come from. It doesn't matter if they're short or tall. It doesn't matter which religion they have, which gender they are, who they are dating. It all does not matter. Think about the cash in your pocket and who is the best buyer for you. Because otherwise, if we discriminate, or if we simply look like we're discriminating or say things that fall into that category, all of that calls for a lawsuit later. So simply look at what is this transaction bringing you as the seller, and look at that, and don't be irritated who's your buyer, okay? And us as agents, we are not allowed to weed through the offers according to that. If you say I only want a cash buyer because XYZ, okay, I can filter for that. But if you say these people go to a church that I don't agree with, that is not a reason for me as the agent to reject that offer, okay? So we need to be clear about that. And then point 1 they have here on the internet, top number 1 reason, the things that you should not be telling your listing agent. You should not tell them anything before you've signed an agreement. That is, in a fantasy world, that is true, because let's say you interview 5 different agents, you should at least interview 2 or 3 usually. But if you have not a signed listing agreement, let's say I'm in Glenlock Farms, so most likely, by the nature of things, I will do quite a bit of business close by to me, because I help my neighbors, I help the people that I go jogging with, I help the people in my gym, I help the people in my church, so they will probably all be in my, I don't know what, 30-minute circle. If you have a busy agent and you decide to not pick the agent later, you go with Mr. Brown and you rejected Susie as your listing agent. Now Susie has some friends while she tried to get your listing, she also has a whole bunch of buyers. So now if you would disclose all the delicate information, let's say you're facing a divorce, or let's say you do have financial issues, or let's say the grandfather died in the house and you don't want to tell them or whatever. So now you've told Susie all your dirty laundry, and now Susie is at an advantage if she brings the buyer. So basically you would shoot yourself in the foot because you're losing all the buyers from Susie, because Susie knows too much, and Susie would know during the transaction how to make the best deal for her clients, and you don't want to give other agents that advantage usually. It is unlikely that this coincidence happened, but I actually had it, that I matched the seller and the buyer, and that I did know both sides of the deal. At that point, you need to know your agent and need to know where their heart is, and if they would throw you under the bus, or hopefully not. Okay, so have an agent where you know it by the end of the day, while they understand everything, while they understand how they could take advantage of something or someone, where is their heart, and will they by the end of the day do the right thing or not. Okay, so these are the top 10. You won't settle for a lower price. Only bring me serious offers. Don't show my home unless I'm available. You have all the time in the world to sell. You are selling the home because of a divorce. You have to sell because of financial problems. You're moving because of a serious illness or a death occurred on the property. Point 2 was you're interested in a certain type of buyer. Or number 1, don't share anything until you're in a agreement. I always say, put the engagement ring on the finger. You don't marry us. It is just an engagement until we have you at the closing table and you feel the warm cash hitting your pocket. But we do put an engagement ring on the finger. So in the moment you are signed up with your agent, do your very best to stay faithful to that agent, because if you give your agent the feeling or the impression that you go astray and actually you don't listen to your agent, or you don't feel obligated. Let's say you're engaged, you don't want to date other people, okay? So the moment you are signed up, give your agent all your trust and move forward and make it a smooth transactions. So this is how you also help keeping your transaction under contract the safest way, okay? If you try to go astray in the meantime, even when something looks like a good offer at the site, usually it is not. And if you ask your agent, they will probably honestly disclose that to you. Okie dokie. So that was my top 10 what to not tell your listing agent, and I thought it was good information. I trust you guys making good decision when picking your agent and how to work with them, and hopefully always to trust and be honest with them. Okay, all of you have a blessed day. Bye bye.